The Daily Bases, live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. I am Ben. Donnie's on the right side. The man in the middle is Craig Mish, our MLB insider here across the SportsGrid network, the host of Newswire that starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Craig, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here on this Tuesday.
Of course, great to be back with you guys here as we really now head toward what is the meat of the baseball season, turning the month of April into May. We have a lot of teams that are still going to fight for this thing. A couple, unfortunately, that look like they're out. But regardless, we press on.
So, Craig, let me ask you that question to start. Calendar changes tomorrow. Wednesday is May 1st. We are pretty much past the month point of this MLB season. It really began on Thursday, March 28th. How much does your evaluation of these clubs around MLB change just because the calendar says May starting tomorrow?
I think there is something to that. I do think that there's a lot of narratives built into sports. And if we're going to do that, I think baseball is fair to do it with as well. A lot of folks look at Memorial Day as really the time to determine whether you're a buyer or a seller. So we're sort of a month away from that. And so I think for teams like Houston in particular, I think that's one team the month of May is going to dictate a lot as to whether or not they're going to stick in this or not. I think the Toronto Blue Jays are another team that's underperformed a little bit. You wonder, are they going to be in or out? And then we have to see, Ben, if like a team like Cleveland can sort of stick around here and fight. I think we have to at least acknowledge at this point that the Oakland A's have played way better than anybody would have imagined right now. Everyone was pounding that 54 under. I mean, the team is only a couple of games under 500 at the end of the month, too. So yeah. I think by the end of May, we'll have a much better indication. But I definitely think you see some teams like Baltimore, who are in it. They're going to fight for this thing. You know that. You know LA, they're in it. And then conversely, teams like the White Sox, you just know that no matter what happens, they're going to be out of it. And unfortunately, it does appear the Marlins, are one of those teams also that as the calendar months turn, they may play hard, but they're not going to be in the race.
Two buyers here, Craig, particularly at Camden Yards at the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. Great game yesterday. Great pitching matchup. 2-0 win for the Orioles. They'll do battle today at 6:35 p.m. first pitch. Nestor Cortes, the left-handed pitcher, will be on the mound today for the Yankees. Dean Kramer will be on the mound here for the Baltimore Orioles. A total of 9 across the board, 80 degrees, wind blowing out today, and a slight for the Yankees at a minus 122 price. Bounce back for the Yankee bats tonight. How about it?
Yeah, it could be, Donnie, but I got to say that, the Orioles bullpen's pretty good. So what you're going to get today is a start from Dean Kramer that's going to be in like the 5th or 6th inning. The last time Kramer pitched, I believe he struck out 10 Angels, the team that I told everybody here on the show that we're going to go under their win total. And then a couple of weeks ago, Ben Stevens put one eye up and said, well, here you go, Ben. There's your under. There's 7 games under 500. We haven't even gotten to the end of the month. That's beside the point. The Nestor Cortes, who's on the other side of the mound tonight, goes very deep into games. If I'm interested in anything tonight, it would probably be Cortez's K-prop. He does seem to be the guy that we saw a couple of years ago. He's 100% healthy. And when you're betting these K-props, and I see these all over social media, this guy over, no one ever talks about guys that go deep into games. That's the predominant reason I think that you want to bet an over on a K-prop. So for me, Cortes is somebody to look at tonight.
So, Craig, when you look at these two teams, technically tied for the top spot in the American League East at this moment, very early on. Baltimore 18-10, New York now suffering the loss yesterday, 19-11. The O's a slightly better win percentage, tied at the top now. Do you expect these two teams to battle for that number one spot in the American League East all season long?
Yeah, well, I definitely think Baltimore will, and before the year, that's who I had, so I'm going to stick with that. You have to acknowledge sometimes when things are going a little different than what you thought, as far as at least watching, analyzing, or handicapping. I did not anticipate the Yankees getting off to this kind of start like they have, which is a good start for them. I still am not fully sold on them, but the other part of this, too, that seems to be discussed a little bit industry-wide here, and again, we do this every year with Tampa Bay, and then in the end, Tampa Bay, they get us, right? At the end of the season, they're right there. But boy, I got to tell you, this year, the Rays haven't looked like the Rays. And so that could potentially alter my thinking a little bit. If time sort of runs out on them and they decide to go another direction, that could really propel the Yankees up a little bit. But still too early to call for me, Ben. I'm still in on the Orioles.
Over 500 on the West Coast here. That's the Los Angeles Dodgers. Picked up a victory yesterday over the Diamondbacks in a high-scoring affair. We're probably expecting more runs today. Why? At the FanDuel Sportsbook, we're listed at a total of 9.5 runs. A slight favorite towards the Dodgers at a minus 112 price. Knack versus Montgomery. Are we looking at more runs out there in the desert today, Craig?
Oh, the jokes write themselves, right? I have a knack for this pick, right? I have a knack for picking
Oh,
games. Yeah, I follow baseball pretty closely, playing in these fantasy leagues and everything else. I don't know a lot about this Knack guy. I'm just being honest. I don't know a ton about him. He went to a small college. He's not a 22-year-old pitcher, not a high-end prospect. I don't anticipate him going more than 5 innings today, and the odds are more or less even. I got to side with Arizona today, and I got to ride Jordan Montgomery and believe the Diamondbacks are going to win today.
We've seen 2 pretty short numbers on the Dodgers. Yesterday, minus 134 money line. This one, a slight favorite at minus 112. But as you saw, just that 8-cent distinction. The Dodgers have been booked as a favorite in all but one game this year. That's 30 of 31 to this point. Similar story for the Atlanta Braves. Despite the walk-off winner last night in Seattle, Mitch Garver, the 2-run shot in the home half of the 9th to walk it off for the Mariners. Atlanta is the road favorite today in Seattle. Craig, what happens in game number 2 of this series?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say the Braves could bounce back in this one yesterday. Max Fried with a fantastic matchup. Seattle, to me, is one of those mystifying teams that we'll have to keep an eye on as the season goes along. High expectations for them. Probably no play for me tonight on this game, but certainly the Braves are the better team of the two.
Minus 130 now, that line working in favor of Atlanta. Hasn't been a great start to this year for Luis Castillo. He's the pitcher tonight, though, for Seattle. National League pennant odds, it's still a race of the 2 at the top, the Dodgers and the Braves. And then Philadelphia slotted there with that 7-1 price, third best. But, Craig, the Phils lost yesterday in Anaheim to those Halos. Another win for Los Angeles. Just saying, we got to stay under 72.5, but the Royals off to a great start as well, so I'll let you slide. Craig, thank you so much. We'll see you on Newswire in a little bit less than 40 minutes at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. More Major League Baseball plays up next.
Look at that. Ready to go here. Freeze frame, people. Get your popcorn ready because it's time to talk some Major League Baseball at this point. We'll get Ben back in a few moments here, but why don't we start? Now, we talk about May coming forward, which is only roughly in 24 hours now. Tomorrow we will have May, Ben. So just like that, you get out of here. I'm trying to host the show, talk some Major League Baseball. And by the way, the good part about this, too, is we weren't talking hockey. Like, you want me to spin on baseball, we can go for an hour. So it was kind of like, oh, look, I'm on the screen right now, and Ben's not paying attention. No, Ben was just lost there. So, Ben, we're talking about the Houston Astros and the Guardians. Would you like to set this game up for me, or would you like me to continue?
I mean, this is going to be a big betting day for you, DRS, because you correctly predicted maybe a technical blip in that last commercial break. And sure enough, almost on cue, it's like the technical gods here at SportsGrid heard and honored your wishes. All right, you were talking about Cleveland and Houston. Well, the Guardians at this moment have the best record in the American League, second best in Major League Baseball, only behind the Atlanta Braves, who are now 19-8. We expected the Astros to probably have the best record. At some point, it's been quite the opposite. Houston 9-19, ready to go after the return from Mexico City back at home. The Stros a minus 166 home money line favorite. Hunter Brown has struggled to start this year, but despite that, Houston with Brown on the bump, minus 166 home money line favorite.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. And also, so we have enough backlog of talent for these pitchers here, which means, how many innings have they pitched so far? Let's just take a look at 20 innings pitched on the season coming into today's card. One of those guys you certainly want to be fading today, it's Carlos Carrasco. If we take a look at the 25 pitchers that have a minimum so far of 20 innings pitched here on the card today, he's 21st out of 25 with an xFIP minus of 121. Keep in mind, don't worry about the terminology itself. 100 is the baseline. Anything above that for a pitcher is bad. He's at a 121, so therefore that's bad. Take a look at Carlos Carrasco on the season. If we take a look at ISO power numbers here, Ben, between lefty and righties combined, 220 and a 381 weighted on base percentage. That's bad. Take a look at the batters here today of how they line up against right-handed pitching this season for the Houston Astros. Altuve, 338 ISO. Alvarez, 213 ISO. Tucker, 211 ISO. But also, we have at least, it looks like, 5 batters here at a 333 or above in weighted on base percentage. So if those RBI shots you want to focus on from left-handed batters, that's going to be Alvarez and Tucker in the middle of that lineup. If you want to go right-handed, look, Altuve usually is always a very good option. So Altuve, Alvarez, and Tucker are the focus today if you're looking from a Houston perspective. Let's flip it over to the other side. Now, Hunter Brown, based on the numbers I'm looking at, doesn't actually have 20 innings pitched on the season because he's been really bad. He's not lasting that long into games, Ben. 93 batters that he's faced, a combined ISO of 185 and a weighted on base percentage of 458. However, the Cleveland Guardians lineup today going up against right-handed pitchers hasn't been that fantastic. So if you're trying to single out the side of the plate that Hunter Brown, a right-handed pitcher, is actually struggling with more is not lefties, it's actually righties. But the problem coming in here, we don't have a lot of dominant righties in this lineup. I do expect runs to be scored, but from an RBI prop, more from an Astros perspective for me, Ben, than a Guardians perspective here.
Only 1 minute left. No, that's 2 minutes left in this segment. Next up, we go to Fenway for some Interleague intrigue. I mean, this technical segment going off the rails. We go to Fenway, though. The Red Sox won the final 2 games of their weekend set against the Cubs. They walked it off on Sunday Night Baseball. They scored 17 on Saturday against the Cubbies in blank Chicago on the other side. Can Boston continue the momentum on this Tuesday? Booked as a home money line underdog against the San Francisco Giants.
They should be an underdog. Let's take a look at Logan Webb. As I just told you about Carlos Carrasco, 21st out of 25 pitchers I ranked today on the card. You take a look at Logan Webb. He's top 5, Ben, and that lists him at an xFIP minus of 80. So almost a role reversal. Anything below 100 is very good. He's at an 80. That's sensational. Look at Logan Webb on the season, batter for batter here, Ben. 152 batters that he's faced, an ISO power number against those combined lefty and righties, 062. How about a weighted on base percentage? 266. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, it is going to be a battle, but we're looking on the East Coast here. In our area, in the tri-state area of around New York, Philadelphia, New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, it's warmer temperatures. It's not that way in Boston today, Ben. 52 degrees at first pitch, so not even getting a lot of help. Maybe an under on this environment, but I like San Francisco because the pitching matchup, Ben, is in their favor today.
And that's why Logan Webb and the Giants are booked as the favorites. The Phils lost yesterday 6-5 in Anaheim against the Angels. Can they bounce back today? Philadelphia minus 142 money line. I'm betting the Phils today. Also, keep the Angels under.